And for more on this, we're joined by Alastair Newton, Senior Political Analyst at Nomura and also President of the British Society for Middle Eastern Studies. Alastair, good morning.
Morning, Mark.
Simple question first. What next?
I think a protracted period of uncertainty, to be honest, Mark. This is going to be a very difficult time for markets. I don't see a speedy resolution to the situation in Cairo, across the country in Egypt today. If there's any good news out of that immediately, first of all, we're not looking at imminent disorderly regime collapse like we saw in Tunisia, I don't think.
Why not? What gives you confidence there's not going to be an imminent regime collapse?
Different set of circumstances. Perhaps one of the key factors here is in Tunisia, it is absolutely clear that the army turned its back on the president on the day which he fled the country. I don't think we're going to see that in Egypt. I think what we're seeing at the moment in Egypt is the army certainly not ruling out the prospect of some regime evolution, but in a more orderly manner than we saw in Tunisia.
What sort of evolution then might it be?
Well, I think the appointment of Omar Suleiman as vice president on Saturday, a man that we have been talking about as a potential successor to Hosni Mubarak for some time, I think that's a sign of where the army would like this to go. But the question is whether a man who is closely associated with Egypt's internal security apparatus is going to be acceptable to the masses on the street today. The second reason why I think we can take a little bit of positive sense out of what's going on in Egypt today is that so far it does look like the rest of the Middle East is holding its breath to wait to see what happens there. We're not seeing a lot of turmoil in the wider region right now. Some isolated events, nothing which looks like it's going to impact directly on oil markets as yet. But some big question marks over this general strike proposal in Egypt. If that were to close the Suez Canal, then clearly that
Talk to me about if the Suez Canal was closed. I mean, what are the ramifications, the region and across the globe?
Well, I think it would be a big knock to international confidence in Egypt. I think it would be a big knock to oil markets. You'd be likely to see oil spiking up. So far, my personal view is the spike in oil has been fairly modest.
Yeah.
But I do think that in that event, we would see the army moving in very quickly to keep the canal open. They will have contingency plans for that. And let's keep in mind that revenues from the canal are worth over $6 billion a year to Egypt. So it's not going to want confidence getting lost in their ability to keep that important transit route open.
When you say the Suez Canal could be closed, if it is closed and we get a spike, are we talking what sort of spike here? I mean, through 100? Very well, almost certainly Brent through 100. I mean, it's flirting with 100 today. On the other hand, if we look at WTI or NYMEX, they're still down around about the 90 mark, just below 90. So I'm not anticipating a very big spike. After all, there are plenty of alternative routes. Oil doesn't have to come through the Suez Canal or through the pipelines up the side of the Suez Canal. But clearly, I think it's that sort of concern which is just getting oil markets a little bit more edgy today, because we've not seen serious unrest in any major oil or gas producer yet. Bit of problems in Algeria, but nothing in the GCC other than some small-scale demonstrations in Oman. And I suspect that that's likely to continue to be the case. Now, if we were to get disorderly regime collapse in Egypt, I do think that that could be a pivotal moment in the region. You know, a couple of weeks ago after the Tunisian regime fell, we were talking about maybe that being a solidarity-type moment in the MENA region rather than a Berlin Wall type moment. If Egypt were to go down the same track as Tunisia, we might just be looking at a Berlin Wall type moment. But I do want to be clear, at the moment, that is not our base case scenario. We're looking at something which we think will drag out and probably some fairly orderly regime evolution at the end of the day. Orderly regime evolution. Thanks, Alastair. We'll speak to you soon. Alastair there from Nomura International.